Hey friends, hello the world. Greetings from Germany, from the city of Karlsruhe. And I'm here sitting in the hotel at 6:33 a.m. recording this before going off to a museum adventure with my host, who I call a German father. And I requested him that we go to see the Mercedes Museum, and he agreed to take me there. So that's why I will be spending the whole day there in Stuttgart, and I thought that I will do this quick video before going off to this trip. So, as you recall from the Monday video or podcast series, that I decided to talk about relationships this week and thought about a lot in terms of what's working in relationships and what's not working in relationships, in love relationships, but this is also concerning other relationships as well. And most importantly, what are the things that are not really helping build connections and that love relationships that we're all craving for? And I want to concentrate on a few of them today. I think these are the things that we know that it might be true, yet we haven't really internalized, or we haven't really thought about, or we haven't really considered how it is in our own relationship. So that's why I really want you to reflect on whatever I'm saying in terms of how it might be happening currently in your relationship and what you could do about it. So, the first one that I want to talk about that I have also observed from my own previous relationships and from other clients is that don't build relationships out of scarcity. And, or I could also say not only scarcity, but fear. So it seems like that sometimes we want to build relationships because we fear being alone, right? Or we fear of certain financial challenges if we're not in that relationship that we have built together. Or we fear of community's perceptions if we don't stay together or if we don't build a relationship. Whatever that fear is, whatever that scarcity is, don't build it because of that. Because what will happen is that even if we do build that relationship, eventually we will be feeling lonely in that relationship, even though the person is next to us or we are in that relationship. Or we will be feeling not happy because of choosing to stay in the relationship because of financial reasons, or we will not be happy because of staying or building relationship because of other people. So either way, it doesn't work. And I have so many examples of that from my clients and myself as well, seeing this not working. It's just not worth it. And even if we do build it, either we don't enjoy it, we don't like the way things are going, or we don't like ourselves in the relationship or how we're acting or how we're showing up, and therefore we don't like it anyway. It will eventually become like a fictitious or like a for the outside world type of relationship, but not really something that we truly enjoy and love being in that relationship. So let's look at the alternatives of um, um, not building a relationship out of scarcity or fear, but out of love and abundance, right? So if you think that you are currently in a relationship and you think that you cannot end this relationship because of ABC reasons, ask yourself, is that really true? Because for many of us, or many of the societies at least, we have the choice to end any relationship. I mean, we know that in some countries it's still illegal, ending relationship would be shunning from the society, from the community. I acknowledge that there are such still challenges that we face, but other than that, we all can, and if we want to, we can. I'm sorry, I think my internet went blank. So now it seems it's back. So the question is, why are we not ending the relationship? And we may have reasons ABC again. Now, if we have those reasons of ABC, then we need to ask ourselves, do we like those reasons for not ending it? Maybe we do like our reasons for not ending it. I don't know. And if we do, then let's be honest and say, I like my reasons for not ending it. Therefore, I'm going to build this relationship. Not saying to ourselves that I can't do this or I can't do that, but I have to stay and stay in this relationship. Because as soon as we constrain ourselves to say, I have to be in this relationship or I have to do this, I have no other choice, we get even more so miserable from even thinking that. And therefore, we don't even have any time or any energy or any enthusiasm to build that relationship. So that's why I'm saying that there is no need to constrain yourself if you don't want to. If you like your reasons why you don't want to end the relationship, then accept your reasons and decide how you can make this relationship with your reasoning the best one that you can, and go for building it. Or another one that oftentimes we say that I can't, or I have to find someone, or I found someone that I want to be in relationship and I don't want to be alone. Therefore, I rather do something with this person and build the relationship. Or other people, one of my clients also used to tell me that I cannot end this relationship because if I end, I need to be alone and I can't be alone because I'm scared of being alone. And again, if that's the case, I would challenge that let's face our fear and be alone and see what happens. Because sometimes we even come to realize that being alone is actually better than being in that relationship where we don't like ourselves, we don't like the other person, we don't like our relationship. So, or if we don't really know this person, we may eventually come to realize that we betrayed our own principles or our own values, and we stayed or we built the relationship with the other person just because of being scared of being alone. So that's why instead of starting that relationship, it might be better to face being alone and find out what's so scary about it. And I know at first it sounds very scary and it sounds like we're wasting time or we're missing time and all this stuff. But once we realize that we can also be alone and we don't need to be scared of being alone, and we don't need to build relationships because we're scared, then we will achieve this inner freedom to know that we can love ourselves, we can build amazing lives even on our own. And it's never a good idea to build the relationship with someone else because of being scared of being alone. Because once we come to the state of not being afraid of being alone and not being afraid of building a relationship, that's a beautiful thing where we decide, where we choose what we want to do. And that's when the urgency decreases, and we realize that once the urgency decreases, we can decide, okay, now what do I want to do? Do I want to be with this person or not? So that's why building relationships or starting ones out of scarcity, I find always leads to that scarcity because we haven't really processed that scarcity or that fear. And we will eventually not like it, or we will eventually realize that we could better off be alone. And that's actually when we waste our time, probably. But on the other hand, we have learned our lessons, and that's good, and we need to move on. So the other one that I wanted to talk about was the concept that many of my clients tell me is that they say something like, I give in this relationship and I never get anything back. So I give and I give, I do all of these things for the relationship, but I don't get anything back. And if you are one of those people, then I highly recommend to double check whether you are doing it for your own sake or you're doing it for someone else's sake. In other words, I'm doing this for the relationship may sound like I'm doing it for the other person. And whenever we're doing it for the other person, we start resenting it. And I've seen it so many times, and also in my own experience, that as soon as we think that we're doing it for someone else and we expect the other person to do the same, we resent it. And whenever we resent it, we don't really like being in that relationship. We don't like the other person, and therefore things trickle down to the negative spiral. So that's why if you're thinking that, ask yourself, why are you not doing it for your own sake? Meaning you wanted to be in this relationship, you wanted to do all of these things. You also don't need to do all of these things. So you decide whether you want to do it for your own sake or not. And after doing all of this, if you still expect the other person and the other person's not doing anything, then that's a good information for you to decide what to do with it, instead of complaining or instead of keep expecting the other person to do something and not doing it, and then you feeling frustrated the whole time. So once you know that you've done all of this that you wanted, and then you see from the other person nothing coming out, let's say, then you decide what to do with that information. Because trying to get the other person do the same things in the exact manner or in the exact amount or whatever it is probably not possible. And even if it was possible one time, it's probably not going to happen again and again if the other person does not want it. And we've known it, we've seen it so many times, right? So that's why getting the other person change is not really an option, I find, unless the other person wants to change. So that's why you need to decide what you want to do with it. You can continue keep doing what you want to do for the relationship if you think you want to do it for yourself. But if you don't, then what's the decision? The third one that I want to talk about is I am right and my partner is usually wrong. Right? So we have this idea that we get into this debate or we get into this conflict sometimes because of feeling righteous about something. And this feeling of righteousness or this feeling of I'm right and he's wrong or she's wrong usually does not lead to the goal that we want, which I'm assuming is more connection, more love in the relationship. Yet we get into this spiral and we somehow get stuck in this relationship battle and wanting to be recognized as the person who is right. If that's what you experience in your relationship, then ask yourself, Why do you need to feel, or why do you need to be recognized as right? Why not have your own recognition that you are right and leave the other person to think whatever the other person wants to think? Why do we have this need or the urge to convince the other person that we're right? And there might be a reason why that is. So check with yourself. Excuse me, my nose is itching. So check with yourself why you have this need to prove to the other person that you're right. Because what I have found from my own experience and experience of my clients, that whenever we have the need to convince the other person that we're right, we're again doing it out of scarcity, meaning we want to be recognized, we want to be acknowledged, we want to be right, we want to be seen as this person who has these things right. And the reason behind why we may want to be doing it is because we're not really giving ourselves that recognition. We're not really giving ourselves that confidence. We're not really giving ourselves that abundance of feelings of what we want and what we have is enough of what we have. And whenever we're lacking something within us, we are trying to then go out and convince the world that this is how it's supposed to be. Because if we're right, and we know we're right, we told the other person and they didn't accept it, that's it. Convincing them or proving them or getting their words of why we're right, in my experience, does not really bring anywhere. It doesn't solve anything, and it doesn't bring enjoyment to know that. And also, it doesn't really lead to any connection with the other person. And the most worst part is, if I start the conversation from I'm right and you're wrong, it already excludes any other possibilities. And it sounds like a judgment has been made and therefore no space for discussion, no space for any exchange of perspectives, no dialogue. So that's why I find that this type of approaches to relationship is not helpful at all. And if you find yourself doing it, ask yourself, why are you wanting to need this recognition or acknowledgement? And what happens if you don't? And what happens, most importantly, if you give yourself this acknowledgement and you just keep your own opinion and you let other people to keep their own. So this is all I have for you today. I hope that you will use some of these in your own relationship and reflect on it and see whether you can observe some of these patterns and how are they affecting your relationships, and whether you can change it in the way that suits you most. And eventually, of course, building that loving, amazing relationships that we're all craving for. So my dears, thank you so much for being with me and listening to me, and have a beautiful Friday and weekend.